Hi everyone. The spiritual attribute that I'm going to do a discourse on today is the one that is called forgiveness. I don't think I need to go into much detail to explain what the word forgiveness means. I will say, however, that not everybody has the exact same meaning for it. And I need to clarify that because some people think that when they forgive somebody, it means they're telling that person, or if they're not telling them, if they're just doing it within their own self, but that they're saying, oh, I forgive you. It's okay what you did. I'm all right with that. It didn't hurt, or it hurt, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm fine with it. Not a problem. No, that's not what we mean. What we mean is that I'm not carrying the hurt anymore. I'm not going to be spending my time continually thinking about what you did to me, going over and over in my mind what I would like to say to you, how I would like to see something happen to you that's the same, how I want to see you pay for what you've done, how I want revenge. That's what you do when you forgive a person. You let all that go. You are not saying what you did to me was okay, because it wouldn't have been okay. If what they did was okay, there wouldn't really be any need for forgiveness. I suppose there's always the possibility that somebody said something that you've taken offence to, and then after a while you've gone through it all and realised that you totally misunderstood them, and made it much larger than what it should have been, and well, then it's quite easy to go along and say, oh, I forgive you. But is really that forgiveness? That's really just realising that, oh, there was nothing to get upset about in the first place. So I want you to realise that forgiveness is a spiritual attribute for a very good reason. It is one of the hardest things for people to do when they have truly been hurt by someone or some organisation. Sometimes it's not just a single person. Sometimes it's a group or a system. So it is very, very hard to forgive. Many people think, why should I? I shouldn't have to. And that's where they're at. And they won't move away from that until one day they'll realise that not wanting to reach a point of forgiveness is actually harming themselves. It's not harming the system or the group or the person who hurt them. You harm yourself when you don't want to forgive. You're not giving that person an opt-out of any karmic debt that they've incurred through what they've done. If what they've done is truly wrong, they have to balance that. They have to truly learn that. You forgiving them is not going to stop them learning it. They will still have to learn it. They will have to come to understand themselves that what they did was truly wrong. And I mean, maybe they've already done that and they're begging you for forgiveness. There's a whole lot of different scenarios we could go on about, oh, what about this case? What about that case? And of course, well, that gives you food for thought, doesn't it? To think about just how does this work? And that's what the spiritual attributes are like. We can give lots of different examples of how they're working out in so many different situations. But that's where your learning and growth comes, in sorting that out for yourself, looking into that for yourself. So when it comes to this forgiveness thing, the very first step is to actually want to forgive. But the reason I went into such detail about saying that forgiving a person does not say that what they did was okay and is not telling them that what they did was okay, then maybe when you look at how not forgiving a person works, you may be willing to forgive. So when you're holding a grudge against somebody, you know what a grudge is. Somebody's done something wrong to you and it's really annoyed you. It's either hurt you or it's made you, or whatever. It might feel like an injustice, whatever it is, it really eats at you. And you might want revenge. I mean, in some cases, you might want to kill someone, even if that's only momentarily right at the very beginning and you sort of ease back from that. But just think of spending years revisiting a situation, an event, or a series of events that has caused you pain, and you're just reliving it in some way, and you're wishing, I want that person to pay. I want them to know how much they hurt me. They've got to feel the same pain I've hurt, and I want bad things to happen to them. All of this kind of thinking and feeling, you're not happy when you're in that state of mind and that emotional state. And yeah, maybe it doesn't eat at you daily, but it's there and it gets triggered. Something will happen and boom, there it is. It's up again. And you've got all of these negative feelings and nowhere really to put them, because more than likely you can't dump them on the person you'd want to dump them on. Yes, you can sit there and send all of this to them. And we spoke about that in the video on innocence, harmlessness. But that doesn't do you any good. Even if they get all that negative energy and take it on board in some way, it doesn't make you feel any better. So the person you're releasing from pain, anger, frustration, hurt is yourself when you forgive the other person. You're not releasing them. Okay, if you actually tell them you've forgiven them, maybe it will sort of release them at some level. They might feel so much better if they've been feeling bad. But as I said before, they still will have to go through some process at some point to balance their karmic books over what they've done. And so part of forgiving somebody is letting go of that wanting to know about it. Okay, that's hard. Sometimes, you start off and you do actually realise, and even if it's because you're on your spiritual path and you realise from other things that you've read and heard and even what's come to you in your meditations, you realise that you do need to forgive people for things. And you decide, well, I want to be able to. That's the very first step. But just saying, I forgive you, is not generally enough. They're just words. When they say, oh, forgive and forget. Well, for a long time on your forgiveness process, you won't forget. You'll forget for long periods and then something will trigger you and it'll come up again and you'll remember that. But each time, because you've chosen to let it go, each time it comes back, it won't be as painful, or you won't hang on to it for as long. You'll remember, I want to forgive this person. I want to let this stuff go. I want it to stop hurting me. So each time it becomes less and less painful. The periods in between it coming back to you become longer and longer until one day a trigger comes and you're there, oh, well, that's a trigger for something that I wanted to forgive that person for. What exactly did they do? What were the details? That's when you know you've forgotten. Now, you could probably remember again if you really tried hard and focused on it and to think, oh, what were the details? What was it? What did they do? So I would say, please don't. Please don't. Please just allow yourself to forget it and trust cosmic law to balance any books, so to speak, to balance karma, to bring retribution if it's needed or whatever. Who knows what's going in that person's life, you know? You may find out one day after you've actually gone through that process, and you may get some feedback and find that that person is has paid for it or is feeling very bad about it, or who knows. But you may not. You may never ever find out. You may have to just go through life thinking that it doesn't affect them and they're okay, and you need to be okay with that. That's what you're working towards. I'm not telling you what you have to do. I'm just explaining a process that is of our soul and what our soul requires of us on our spiritual journey. And this would be one of the very hardest for a human being to do. So don't expect it to be easy. Some people seem to be able to more easily forgive. And if it is truly that they've let it go, that they truly, it's not just on the surface, but it's truly they seem to be able to do it more easily, that's probably because they've started the process in previous lives. I will tell you one thing that helps the process is if you can try to see where the other person, and we'll look at it as just that it's another person, not a group or a system at this point, but you could use the same process. If you can walk in their shoes, so to speak, if you can come to understand what caused them to behave in the way that they did that was so bad to you. Okay, you might be surprised that when you start to see, maybe horrible things happen to them, it doesn't excuse what they did, it explains it. There's a difference between excusing something and explaining it. We're not about excuses here. Okay? Someone might come up with a whole lot of excuses because they want you to forgive them, but those excuses aren't the real cause of why the person behaves that way. Okay? So if you can come to understand where they're coming from, what's turned them into that person that at that time they did that, often that helps you to be able to really get a long way along with that process of forgiveness, because quite often you'll feel a compassion for them, not for them as they did what they did to you, but for them at an earlier point when you see what they went through, that you can see is directly linked to the way they behave to you and perhaps behave to other people. And you can feel compassion for that person back then. Okay, it doesn't immediately wipe everything away, but it helps the process. It helps you to let go because you've got something else to balance these feelings now of hurt and wanting revenge and all that. you find you're feeling some compassion for this person. Don't fight it if you do. Don't think, oh, they don't deserve my compassion. Well, maybe they do way back, okay? Maybe they even deserve it now. I'm not saying in every case they would. There's, that's what there's no, it's a lot of greys. It's not black and white, this stuff. A huge grey scale. Okay, so I'm trying to give a little bit of black and white to sort of help you on the way, but you're going to have to navigate those greys yourself. And of course you can talk to other people and get ideas. But if you talk to anybody who's actually truly forgiven someone, they've actually done it, really, not just pretending to themselves that they have, but they've really done it, they will tell you how it has freed them, how it has removed some of the trauma that was affecting other areas of their lives. That because they've actually gotten to that point of forgiveness, then that whole incident that they had to forgive the person for is not now impacting in a negative way in their lives. So they will tell you that they are the winners. They might even say, I don't know what that person's doing. I have no idea what's happening in their life. I haven't got a clue what's going on. And that doesn't matter. All I know is that, wow, I'm doing well now because I'm not wasting time on this. But they'll probably tell you, but it took me a while. It wasn't an easy process. But you can learn so much about yourself in the process too. Okay, in coming to understand it all, and even your role in it. I'm not getting you to lay blame on yourself, but who knows what you might discover about your own self in the dynamic of it. That is good for you to know about yourself, and that will also help you to move on. So this process of forgiveness is an extremely useful tool on your spiritual journey. So I would ask you to give it a lot of thought and to have a look in areas in your life where you feel you do need to forgive. And before I do complete, because I focused upon you forgiving people who have hurt you in some way, but there's one of the probably even hardest things to do is to forgive yourself. Because none of us are innocent. None of us are. We've all hurt people, whether we've wanted to or not. Okay? And you may still be carrying guilt from hurt you caused someone a long time ago, or it could be recent. So you need to examine your role in that. You need to do the same thing to understand, why did you do it? Where were you coming from? Maybe you can then find some compassion for yourself and be able to start a process of forgiving yourself, because that's really important too. Self-forgiveness. So I hope I've given you something to think about. I really hope that a lot of you already worked out most of what I said and are on your journey of forgiveness. But if not, if this is the first time that these ideas about it have been presented to you, then please give it a lot of thought, because you are important. You and your well-being and your growth as a spiritual person are very, very important. Thank you.